In addition to select by location, we can do something that's called a buffer to create a zone of a certain width around different features and then use that to do overlay and proximity analysis. So you can define some certain buffer width and then it will essentially create a new feature around that. And then on top of that, there's some options within the buffer where you can either create distinct features around each, or you can dissolve and merge all of the resultant shapes together. You can also do variable width buffers and multiple ring buffers, where you can either vary the width of a buffer by a certain property, or you can have concentric rings of different radii going out from them. So buffers are great for identifying areas of influence, useful for clipping other layers, and identifying neighbors, among other things. So if we want to, say, buffer the sirens layer, then we can buffer it by, let's say, 1,000 meters, and we can select no dissolve and click run and see what happens. Now, if we run it again with dissolve all, we can run that and see what happens. And note the difference. These features are all merged together based on a certain category. Now, the sirens layer has this numerical attribute score. They're all the same. But if we edit it and we change this to 100, let's change this one to 500. We'll leave the other ones at just 1 to highlight what's going to happen here. Instead of buffering by a linear unit, you can buffer by a field. So this is what's known as a variable length buffer. We'll buffer it by score. Then we can run this with the field and the score, and we can see what happens. Get another buffer layer, and here, right, the object that had 500 gets buffered by 500 meters. The one that had 100 gets buffered by 100 meters. The ones that only had 1 just get buffered by 1 meter. And so that's one option. You can also do multiple ring buffers. So instead, you want to buffer the sirens, and say the first distance you want to do is 100 meters, but then you also want to do 1,000 meters. And so this is what you end up with when you do a multiple ring buffer. You see that you get the smaller one and then the larger one. And so you have these rings of 100 meters, which if you dissolve are going to end up all in the same. And the rings of 100 to 1,000 are going to be like a donut.